stuff that we have documented that we can defend. The world has changed to the point where the U.S. is no longer an economic superpower. Simple fact. We have the greatest debt in the history of the world, and the Soviet Union is in worse shape with an economy that's in a state of chaos. Now this creates an ironic situation where we are still the military superpowers of the world, we and the Soviet Union, but we are economic secondary powers. We do not control our economic fate. Other people have control over what's going to happen to the U.S. economy. Now, we are still players. In what sense? If you saw the 60 Minutes show during George Bush's '88 campaign, they showed how 18 members of his campaign staff had accepted 6- and 7-figure honoraria from foreign countries and foreign companies. George Bush is plugged into the world financial order, and the United States no longer being the economic leader, but still having the guns, the bullets, the muscle, and also the temperament to go kick ass and kill people. We have become the Praetorian Guard for the evolving world security state. Thank you very much for hearing me out. How much time do we have, both?
We'll be here for our review, I hope, so go ahead and take about 10 minutes for it.
They're going to give us 10 minutes now for questions, and then there'll be something later on to discuss more. So, if you'll be quiet, I know you have to sort out and people may have to leave, but let's. Yes, sir.
I appreciate your time, first of all.
Thank you.
How do we stop the cancer? If you were going to stop the cancer, how would you do it?
What's the question?
The question is, how do we stop the cancer, if you will, the national security cancer that's growing out of control, encroaching on our democracy? This is a tough one. They have tremendous energy because they relate to the money-making machinery of the defense complex, for one, and the other great capitalists and SNL scandal, the George Bushes, the Neil Bushes, the people with access to the money. Their lobbyists get paid $75,000 a year, and they can dole out fistfuls of cash in Washington while we're sitting there with our jobs trying to go down and stand on a street corner and protest at the expense of our family life, at the expense of making a living. It's a tough one. As I see it, the only hope, and mind you, we're still talking about the nuclear arms race. The world is still 4 times as dangerous as it was in 1981 because of the nuclear buildup under Ronald Reagan. Now, the only hope, and it is a desperate hope, if you crank in the environmental problem, for example, which is an equal time bomb threatening the viability of is education. Is getting enough people aware of what's happening so that they will force the people, the leaders of the world, to come to their senses and change before they destroy the whole system. Now that's a tough one because we're up against their machinery that controls the universities, that controls the media. Nevertheless, we have one asset, and this is something that I very much regret. I've clashed several times with prominent people in the peace movement. The one thing that I see that we have, which is a tremendously powerful tool, is what I call the intellectual high ground. We are holding ourselves to a standard of the truth as we dig and research, we debate, we keep ourselves honest. If I make a mistake speaking, someone comes up and says, John, you know, you got it backwards or wrong. Now, this is one thing I know that we can never let go. However passionate you feel about it, keep it true. The truth is so overwhelming we don't have to exaggerate, embellish. We can stick to the truth, and we just have to work hard enough to get the word out to enough people to turn this thing around. It's that simple. There is, as I see it, no other hope. George Bush is not going to save us. Gorbachev is not going to save us. Yes, sir.
Stockwell, you've been trained in investigation. You're in the CIA. In your speech, you've used a lot of non-personal pronouns. Talk about they. Could you please tell us where the chain of evidence leads past where you've told us so far, so that we can know who our enemies are? Can you name them?
English.
You mean, what do you mean by enemies?
Who are they? Can you tell me who they is?
Oh, I've been usually referring to, the question is who are they? I've been using they pronouns, they this and they that. Basically, I'm referring you can look at it several different ways. I've been researching the Kennedy assassination in great depth, and they, in that case, is what Fletcher Prouty calls a secret team. This is not exactly to be confused with what Christic calls a secret team, although the origin of the ideas is from the same place. Prouty teaches that the secret team changes faces continuously, but nevertheless, in the national security complex of the military, the FBI, the CIA, organized crime, the big business people working together, they and the Congress working with them, the Democrats in the Congress working with them. It's what was called the establishment, if you'll forgive me, during the Vietnam War. I don't like to use that term so much because it relates us to a thing in history, and I was on the other side at that time, so I was in the establishment at that time.
Follow up on that trail. Will you give us any names of who you're referring to?
Oh, yeah. Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Ollie North, Richard Secord.
That's the administrative level.
Daniel Inouye. The capitalists who own the society. This is a capitalist country. How many people have read the book, The People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn? Okay, I've got a treat for you. As soon as you leave here, go buy that book and read it. Stop your work. Don't go to work tomorrow. Read it. The People's History of the United States. You will never understand the workings of U.S. society completely until you read that book. Once you read that book, you will understand what they is and how the system works. A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn.
Let me help you out, John. This young lady back here.
Thank you. Mr. Stockwell, going back to the beginning of your talk about these laws that are being incorporated that we don't know about, that they're sort of sitting on until such time they need to use them. The law that you talk about reporters going into one or two countries, for instance, to do investigating report to the public about what is happening, or even inside our country, i.e. Watergate. Am I to understand the one law you spoke about that will no longer be possible?
Well, they have a tool now to crunch a reporter who is reporting stuff they don't like in, say, a Vietnam-type war. This was the Phil Agee ruling of the Supreme Court. They went to him. They did not accuse him of any crime. They went and took his passport. He sued to get it back. The Supreme Court backed up their right to confiscate passports. This is Iron Curtain, kind of stuff, where they can restrict your travel so you can't go where they don't want you to go.
If I may follow up on that, my real question is, would you interpret that as a loss of our freedom of the press?
Oh, it's a direct attack on it and our freedom of travel.
Yeah, repeat the question there, John.
Yeah, the question is, would I interpret the Phil Agee ruling to be an attack on our freedom of the press? And yes, it's a flank attack on it. Absolutely.
Right here, please.
Mr. Stockwell, is there any relationship that you know of between these non-insignia-bearing attack forces that are coming out of North Carolina and taking people out, private people out of their homes without warrant, and the CIA activities?
No, I'm drawing a blank on the North Carolina thing. I know that there is a muscle moving across the nation. I know we have it down in Texas. People are playing war games or going out and playing with weapons, who are fantasizing, kicking in people's door and hauling them away.
Lady in the red shirt back there. Good and loud now.
I'm familiar in the state of Indiana, and I'm sure it's duplicated all over, with exactly what you're saying. That control of the press, the legislature, the university's influence, the law firm's control of the law, the changing of the law, the writing out of certain rights and protections. But on the S&L, if they can use the RICO law against the drug cartels and the mafia, I see no reason why we can't confiscate the assets of all the white collar involved from the top on down to the Bush and the family, and get that money back where it belongs, back to the middle income and the strength of the nation.
Yeah, this is a question of why we can't use RICO, for example, and other laws on the books to punish and recover the money that was stolen by the people in the S&L scandal. Howard Zinn has a principle in his book, and this is a rich book. Every page has a punchline or a quote or an idea. But he points out that more poor people go to jail because the rich people write the laws.